Udah gamal linknya, Pak.
Grup. Kan ngisir Pak Nafi, Pak Aham.
Hello, Mr. Wafi.
Do you escape, Mr. Wafi?
Are you still here, Mr. Wafi? Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think Mr. Wafi has a technical problems. Still, okay. Let me handle this, Mr. Wafi. Mr. Wafi is next to me, actually. Oh, he's already here.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Eva,
you can have it, Mr. Wafi.
Okay. Thank you for unstable connection.
Yeah.
Well, let me clarify again. So, Miss Ismat Zarin from Bangladesh, right? Ismat Zarin from Bangladesh.
Yes.
And Irena Biba from
Albania.
Albania. Oh,
yeah.
not Poland or Albania. Yes.
No.
Okay. So, to make sure that it is correctly written on the, on the certificate letter. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to please Miss Nikmatul Rabbianty, M.Pd, as the moderator for this lovely afternoon. And for letting you know that Miss Nikmatul Rabbianty here is the head of Pusat Bahasa, language unit in IAIN Madura. Miss Eva?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wafi, for having me as the moderator today. Okay, good afternoon from Indonesia, all the distinguished speaker and the participants all around the world. And today, the webinar will talk about teaching English to young learners, this is become also my concern because I'm an English lecturer that is teaching these courses to my students. So I teaching English to young learners with my students here at IAIN Madura. And I'm so grateful that we have different speaker here that maybe later will share how the teaching of young learners in Albania, in Bangladesh, and also in Egypt. Hopefully later our honorable speaker here can share what they already have previously dealing with teaching English to young learners, and maybe their ideas of what should we do in teaching young learners in the future. Okay, before we go to the speakers, I would like to tell you the rules of today's webinar. So we will give you 20 minutes. Each of the speaker will be given 20 minutes to present your materials, and then we will give you 10 minutes to have a discussions with the participants here. So the participants may open their audio and also their video and directly ask to the speaker, or you can also write down your questions in our chat box and let me share the questions to the speaker. Okay, without further ado, let's me give the first chance to present the material to Mrs. Ismat Zarin from University of Asia Pacific, Bangladesh. And then after that to Mrs. Irena Biba from Albania. And then the last one to Mrs. Ghada Tosson Abdul Latief from University of Beni, Suef, Egypt. Okay. Mrs. Ismat Zarin. Maybe I can give you a chance to personally introduce yourself to the audience here and then presenting your materials. Okay, time is yours, Mrs. Ismat.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Eva Rabbianty, for giving me the floor to speak before you all.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate and I welcome you all to my speech. So before I begin, I'd like to introduce myself to you all. Basically, at present, I'm working at University of Asia Pacific, a private university in Dhaka, Bangladesh, as an assistant professor at the Department of English. At the same time, I'm the director of the Office of International Affairs in the same university. So I directly deal with a lot of students, not only in classroom, but also outside the classroom. So as you can see, and also I have been connected to various international organizations in terms of development perspective, like UN and other international organizations where I am connected for the development of education and sustainability. So these are my focuses, and I also work for environment and education. And apart from that, as you know, I'm an international speaker. I generally am connected to the research and development of teaching of English around the world. So that's a brief introduction about me. I would not make it exhaustive. If you need to know about me further, you can always talk to me personally. I'm very much open to connecting and networking. So thank you very much, first of all, for giving me the floor. And I'm really delighted to talk about a very pressing point at this moment, because starting from the pandemic, and like we have come a long way in terms of teaching English to young learners, and this has become an issue for discussion for not only teachers at the very beginning, or at the very I mean, teachers who are starting their career right now, but also like the pre-service teachers, and of course teachers at the mid-level right now who are teaching the young learners. So before I begin, I'd like to share my screen first, and then I'd like to begin with the discussion further. Okay, I hope my presentation is very much visible. Just let me make it a slideshow. Okay, so yeah, this is full screen. All right, so our topic today, as we can see, is teaching English to young learners, and we're going to talk about the today and tomorrow. So of course, we have to understand where we are at present and what we are planning for tomorrow, and how we can imagine and of course go for a better future in terms of teaching English to young learners. So moving ahead. The first question is, where are we now? The first question. So as we know, with the pandemic for the prevailing for almost 2.5 years now, and we are at the verge of global economy where things have changed quite a lot in the past few years. And the global economy has been harmed because of the COVID-19 situation, as well as, of course, the education had to change depending on that scenario due to the pandemic. So the global economy nowadays have become, of course, there are a lot of there are a lot of degrading scenario in the global economy, and of course we are expecting the graduates we are expecting the graduates to be much more handy and much more much more competent in terms of handling the global economy if they're joining the workforce. So this process, if we would like to have our graduates to have a wonderful to have a wonderful competency around them, we need to prepare them from the very beginning of their life. And of course, we know that young learners are the backbone for having wonderful graduates afterwards. So the global economy demands nowadays us to have a kind of preparation or a kind of reimagination of the whole procedure and techniques and methods of teaching English to young learners. So we need to reimagine and of course hybridize the forms and methods and techniques that we have been applying for the past few years before the pandemic, and now what we are going to do after the pandemic, or at present what we should do. That's what I would like to talk about. And of course, with that, before going into that directly, I'm just giving the kind of background why we should change the whole scenario and why we should think about hybridizing the whole context even further. I know we all are practicing and we all are preparing ourselves, but then again, there are more to do. Just if we look at the COVID-19 scenario, what characterizes our world, it is much more complex than ever before. It is much more, it has much more layers and dimensions and new sort of communication, given the whole scenario, since we can't, in some case, we don't know whether we would be able to go for the physical classrooms or not, and whether we are physically available or not. It's something that's not in our hand. So we are not at all out of the pandemic till now. And even if we are out of the pandemic, we know that the world has changed by this time in the last 3 years. So the world is much more complex in terms of our thought processes and what we are requiring from what we actually expect from our students. And also, as a practitioner, I can always say that our students are also demanding something, some new techniques and kind of new methods from us as in the English language classroom, so that the classes are much more fruitful and meaningful. So looking at this COVID world, we can understand that there are added levels or layers of communication, and it's not only about online communication. It's much more about hybridizing. So we are demanding like online communication, which should be linked with excuse me, with physical communication. So it's much more hybridized now, and the world is much more connected, as we can see. So what can we think about the TEYL, or Teaching English to Young Learners, with a new vision, or how can we revisionize it, I would rather call it. So looking at the changing world, we of course, we need to think about new concepts that can actually help us hybridize the teaching of young learners from a new dimension and from a new perspective. So in that case, what I would like to talk about today is how can we incorporate, or how can we hybridize the teaching English to young learners with the concepts of global competence, incorporated global communicative competence, which I believe now has to be incorporated in the teaching of English with like young learners. And that's what I'm going to emphasize in my speech today. And so of course, we can think about other concepts as well, but this is the concept right now I'm going to focus. So there is something more to teaching English nowadays. It's not like the traditional way of teaching English nowadays. And we have been, as teachers, we have been as teachers, and of course, when we think about the researchers, if we look at the researchers for the past 20 years and even more, what we have found is that teaching English has come a long way, and not only with CLT or communicative language teaching, there are a lot more ideas which have come a long way, like active teaching and learning. And of course, there are more like reflective teaching and learning and other theories like that. So all these are, of course, we know that very much interconnected to communicative language teaching, and there are theories like Vygotsky have given the theory. So there are a lot of theories which have come a long way in the teaching of English, and especially when we think about young learners, we always tend to incorporate a lot of materials which actually make the teaching much more accessible to the young learners, and they can get motivated. But now I think it is a time for us to understand one very important fact, and that is what is the outcome, and what is the outcome that we are requiring now, because the whole scenario after the pandemic has changed. Now what we actually envision from our students to have is much more than we used to expect before. So the world now demands a student to be much more handy and accessible to any and every form of communication. And that, as I will show you now, is very much connected to having a global communicative competence that will enable our learners to learn English and at the same time become much more become an asset for the future. So just to review a little bit more, nowadays, as we know that if we think about the global economy, 1 in 5 jobs are connected to international trading. And of course, when we're teaching English, we can't forget, even if we don't want, we can't forget the job perspective in relation to teaching English, whether we are teaching young learners or not. That is not the question. The question is, whenever we are teaching English, we need to keep it in mind that international trade, the job perspective is a prime concern in the learning and teaching of English. So when we are focusing on the young learners from the very beginning of their life, I mean, if we make them aware of the job perspective and what they need to know, then it becomes much more easier in the later stages of their life. So to think about the global economy, as we can see now that 1 in 5 jobs is tied to international trade now, and there are global customers and employees who actually want our graduates or our obviously employees to be much more connected to the global culture and global scenario, and of course in relation to English. So since, as you can see, we are moving to the hybrid work mode, we actually, even if we are having office on offline or physically, we are always connected in the hybrid mode to the online customers and online partners. So it is much more demanding, and we can't forget that when we are teaching the young learners even. So so that we can prepare them from the initial stages of their life for their future. And so as I was just talking about, like after we finish the after we complete this horrible scenario right now we are in, like the COVID scenario, even after that, of course, we know that there will be a lot of prevailing global and local issues which have to be dealt by these young learners who are actually young learners now, and also who will be joining the workforce after a few years from now. So they need to be much more well informed about the prevailing global and local consequences. And of course, we are much more borderless now. So it's not like we are like if our learners are actually concerned about only one particular culture they belong to, it is not going to work. Rather, they have to be trained and well informed regarding the global culture, which actually will make them globally competent citizens of the world. Not only global citizens, rather globally connected and competent students who have gone through experiences related to the world culture and the world scenario related to economy, and of course history, and of course knowledgeable regarding war and terrorism and everything like that. And of course, we can't forget one very important thing again, like climate change is a prevailing issue which we can't ignore. And whenever we are thinking about the climate change issues, we need to understand that it is it has this awareness regarding the climate change issues and how we can cater our new world to handle the climate change scenario, and how we can cope up with this problem. We need to make our children and of course the young learners of English aware of this fact and capable of being knowledgeable regarding this issue from the very initial stages of their life. So that's how also we can connect this issue of teaching English to young learners and climate change. And if we can incorporate these concepts like climate change and war and terrorism and refugee issues as well, like all these prevailing issues around the world, not only the local issues, but these are obviously, as you know, very much globalized issues, then of course the children will be much more prepared for their future and much more well informed for their future, so that they can actually go back when they finish their education, and when they go back to the workforce, they're much more accessible and open. They have an open mind, and they are much more a part of the global scenario. Excuse me. So if we think about, it's not only about I don't think it's only about teaching English to young learners, but also if we think from a broader perspective, or the bigger, if we just look at the bigger picture, we can think about a new vision for education, and of course there lies the question: is global communicative competence or global competence the answer to all these questions? Now I would like to just before going into the discussing the concept of global communicative competence, which I have been mentioning so far and so forth, of course I'll explain what it is. But before going to that, if you look at the high school graduates aged 18 to 24 in the recent data from worldsavvy.org, you can see that the children have their own, I mean the high school graduates have their own views about how teaching of English should be. And the students actually believe that 80% of the students who have graduated recently around the world, they think that, as worldsavvy.org mentioned, that they think that jobs are becoming much more global in nature, and 12% of them only mention that they have received instruction to help them to understand the roots of global issues. But that percentage is very, very low, as you can see. And look at the others. I mean, they think that the 60% of among them, they think that they would be better employees if they had a stronger understanding of different world cultures. Now that actually, I mean, obviously leads us to this vacuum, that this actually leads us to the vacuum that we are leaving something out when we are teaching our learners, and especially the young learners, and of course later on to the advanced stages of their life. So that means we haven't been able to incorporate this particular issue of world culture and understanding related to global issues to a greater extent. And that means this is a handy and very much, of course, authentic information. Moving ahead. So now you might ask me the question, what is a global communicative competence, or what are we expecting from our learners? Now, first thing first, I mean, if we are saying that we need to nurture the global communicative competence among the young learners who we are teaching, we must, of course, know first what it is all to means, I mean, what it all means to be globally competent, or what are we expecting from our young learners. The first thing is that there are certain necessary skills and knowledge and dispositions which are actually necessary to navigate and succeed in today's interconnected world. And what are these competences that we are talking about? The first one is that whenever we are teaching teaching our young learners, we have to make them realize the fact that they have to be lifelong learners. It means they need to be aware of the fact that they are not stopping anywhere. It's not, there is no end to the learning. So whenever we are teaching the young learners, we need to make them aware of the fact that they have to learn on their own. And of course, they need to be autonomous learners. And of course, there are the awareness needs a lot of training and a lot of a lot of awareness raising sessions, along with, of course, whenever we are teaching as teachers, we have the privilege to directly connect to the young learners and make them aware and informed about the fact that they have to be lifelong learners. The second thing that I would like to talk about is the ability to appreciate cultural differences. Now, cultural differences are a very much truth around the world. It is very, very it is everywhere, and we cannot deny the fact that we are culturally very, very different from each other. And the only concern is that appreciation. The only concern that actually comes in the way is appreciating the cultures around the world and the cultural differences. So a globally competent individual is basically not only aware, but also can appreciate the cultural differences around the world, and they can actually empathize. It's not sympathize, rather they can empathize with any and every culture around the world and with the people around the world. So that makes them much more informed and a global citizen. The third ability that I would like to talk about is that they have an ability to understand and consider multiple perspectives. Now, we have to understand that when we are teaching our young learners, and we are teaching, of course, English, we make them have their own perspectives and express those ideas. So we need, obviously, we teach writing, right? I mean, we teach them how to write, and we teach them how to speak in front of an audience, but we need to understand that when we are making them skilled, at the same time we have to make them skilled to understand and appreciate and look at certain concepts from different perspectives, so that multiple perspectives can come into their can come into their view, and they can appreciate and rather and I would not only appreciate, but also they can consider and understand multiple perspectives. This is a very much important skill which is required in workplace. So if we can make our young learners aware of this particular fact from the very beginning of their life, and we can nurture this idea, and if they grow up in a kind of incubating this idea in them, in the young mind, that makes them much more open from the very much initial stages of their life. And the next skill that is again that is again very much in vogue, I would say, for the past 10 years or more, is the critical thinking skill and the comparative thinking skill. The critical thinking skill, of course, as we all know, has been quite a research area for the past few years. And of course, it is very much important for our learners. If we're teaching English to young learners, we need to understand that they will have to learn initially to be critical from the earlier ages of their life. So if we are thinking about teenage learners, for example, if we're thinking about the teens, we can't ignore the fact that this is a very, very much, this is a very critical age. And this is the age which actually, which actually demands the learners to be much more accessible and to have a better understanding of the world. So if we can take the opportunity of this age and make them think about any particular concept critically, and if we can incorporate this skill in our teaching and learning methods and techniques, then it becomes much easier for us to get them involved and motivated in their the sessions that we are taking. And next, the ability that I'd like to talk about is problem-solving skill or problem-solving activity ability. So problem-solving is a skill, of course. The problem-solving is a skill which requires extensive training and extensive, of course, practice over the years. It's not something that happens in one day. So if we want our future generation to be a generation which actually works actively to solve problems, then of course we need to start it now. And this skill, of course, the problem-solving skill demands an individual to have multiple perspectives and other skills that I have been discussing so far and so forth. So if they have all these, I mean, automatically these will lead to problem-solving abilities. And next, I would like to talk about ambiguity.
Mrs. Zarin, I'm so sorry. I'm afraid you have another 5 minutes to go.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much
Okay,
for reminding.
you're
No problem.
welcome.
Yeah, of course, I'll go very fast. No problem. Okay. And the next one that I would like to talk about is ambiguity and change. So when we are open to any ambiguity, that means there are, of course, people with ambiguities around the world, and if the children are aware of the ambiguities and if they're informed. And of course, if they can appreciate the different people around the world, then it helps them to be globally informed, and of course, their future will be bright. And last but not the least, of course, I mean, of course, I talked about the awareness about globally significant issues. So, I mean, now, I mean, when we're thinking about preparing our future generation, we need to understand that our children need to know about the globally significant issues, as I was talking about. And furthermore, if I would just talk about it, the future generation, we want them to be good thinkers and problem solvers, not just good test takers. So we want our future generation, if we want them to be wonderful thinkers and coming up with creative ideas and critical thinking ability and all, we need to make them good thinkers, turn them into good thinkers, which again has to be started from the initial stages of their life. And so you can understand that global communicative competence is a combination of all these competences, and these have to be incorporated. If these are incorporated in our teaching and teaching scenario to the young learners, I think that will make them the global citizens in much more in a much more accessible way. So I'll just show you quickly the global competence matrix. This is the global competence matrix. So what we want is we want to incorporate these three things on skills, behaviors, values, and attitudes. All these things, all these concepts all together make the global competence matrix. That means we want our future generation to have to be a combination of all these three concepts. So I talked about all these. I'll just go through it since I don't have much time. The core concepts, of course, as I was just talking about, the connection to connection of the learners to the globally significant issues, and knowing about own culture and others' culture, and knowing about the history of the world, not only one's own culture and history, and knowing about the multiple conditions around the world, multiple events around the world, and current world system, which is shaped by the historical forces, so far and so forth. If the children learn slowly around around their journey of learning English, this will be making them much more resourceful. Next one is skills, which I talked.
Hello, Mrs. Zarin.
কেমন লাগে এখন কারে চলে গেছে, আমি ঢুকতে পারছি না থেকে।
Yeah, we can hear you already, Mrs. Zarin.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I just lost my connection.
Yeah.
So you can, yeah, okay, thank you very much. Okay, so can you hear me now? Yeah,
Yeah, I can
All right.
hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so we were talking about the values and attitudes. So, sorry, just let me go through it. Yeah. So the skills I actually have talked about, and we know that our children have to be active and, of course, engaged in their in their future, when they're going for the workforce. So we have to turn them into active and engaging learners, and they're fluent in 21st century digital technology. We have to incorporate that also in our teaching and learning in a way so that um, uh, they can actually incorporate in their work life. And of course, whenever we are teaching English, we need to understand that they have to be investigators in a way, so that, I mean, investigator in the sense that they can ask questions, they can frame their questions, they can analyze, and they can come into conclusions even in their own way, because, I mean, obviously these are young learners, so we have to make our learners inquisitive, using our own techniques and methods, of course, as we know that we actually apply different methods and techniques. So the values and attitudes is the next issue that I would like to talk about. So all these are connected to, of course, the identity and entity of the young learners. And so when we are teaching our young learners English, we have to understand that they have to be taught the concepts of humility and empathy, and of course adaptability to the whole world, with people coming from different cultures, and how they can engage themselves with the newer opportunities and ideas and ways of thinking. And of course, they not only that, they need to respect their self identity around the world, their culture, their own sensitivity has to be in the center of their own values and attitudes. So what I am trying to say is that, and the last one is the behaviors. Of course, we want our young learners to learn how to adopt shared responsibilities and taking cooperative actions, and so that they can commit to the process of continuous learning and reflection. And I mean, of course, reflection is a very important part of this communicative competence, global communicative competence matrix, because when we do any action, we need to reflect on what we are expecting from ourselves. This is something very important, and this is again connected to learning a language. So when we're teaching our young learners, when we're teaching English to our young learners, we need to make them aware of the fact that they need to also learn how to reflect. So these are all the concepts that can be incorporated into our teaching and learning methodology, as well as the materials and of course techniques. And I think these actually contribute to making a better individual moving into the journey ahead of life, when young learners are moving into the adult in their tertiary level, and of course later on in their work life. So I think, I know I crossed maybe my time a little bit. If I had more time, I would go on and on, I mean, discussing a lot more, but I just hope that I could make it accessible and understandable to all of you all. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed the talk today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Ms. Zarin. That was really inspiring, because you share with us and reminding us that teaching English to young learners is not only making them able to speak English fluently, but we need to also teach them to be a global citizens who should have global competence, and they should also having the mindfulness dealing with technology improvements. There are war issues, the climate change, and before I have a questions for you about the teaching of young learners dealing with the sustainability, but I think I should give the chance to the audience first. If you have questions, you may raise your hand. Oh, we have Mr. Mubarak Ali. You can open your audio and video to send your questions directly to Ms. Zarin. Mr.
Assalamualaikum
Mubarak.
to all. Assalamualaikum to all. I'm
Waalaikumsalam.
Mubarak Ali from India. Respected Professor, thanks for your invaluable insight. Extending my sincere thanks to organizer for this opportunity. My question to you, Professor: what do you learn? Keep learning. What do you do? What do you to keep learning and growing as a person? What do you to keep learning and growing as a person? Is my first question. My second question: what's something you all learned during this crisis you would have been never accepted? And thanks for the opportunity.
Excuse me. Yeah. Okay, I think I got your question. I think I understood your question. There are two questions that I think you have asked. The first, thank you, Mr. Mubarak Ali, for asking the wonderful questions. The first question, I think the first question was, what was the first question?
What,
Can I repeat it?
if I'm not mistaken,
what do you to keep learning and growing as a person?
Okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
I mean, personally, if you are
Yeah.
asking
To
me,
keep-
of course, yeah. I think keeping the fire of inspiration and the fire of motivation inside. You need to have that fire. You need to have that. This is what I personally believe, and I also personally practice. Like, I always feel that I need to have that fire in me, which actually makes me move ahead with my concepts, with my ideas, and again, accepting the newer concepts that are coming in. And I personally believe that there are always something new to learn, because the newer concepts are coming. People are coming with newer researches. People are coming with newer, of course, ideologies and methods, and of course, techniques. So I personally prefer going through the new researches a lot and going through the new ideas. That makes me be informed and keeps me alive. I think that's the fire that I always love to nurture in me. So this is the answer to your first question. I hope I've done justice to your question. And
Yeah.
what is the second question?
I think the second question is also similar. What did you do to keep being productive in this COVID? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So during this COVID, I think during this pandemic, it of course varies country to country. I mean, how we are during the pandemic, because some countries are in a better position now and some countries are not. So if we are, when I was in pandemic in the last during the last 2.5 years, I think that was the most productive time of my life, because that was the time when I got the opportunity to rethink and kind of redesign my own agendas. And of course, reading a lot. I mean, that actually made my days. I mean, I love to enjoy in a way, I was enjoying the pandemic because I was staying at home, and of course I was working, but at the same time I could read a lot more than ever before, because I could get the opportunity to read more and more, and to explore my opportunities, and look at and of course speaking at different occasions in different conferences, which I think was earlier was not that much accessible and possible staying at home. But during the pandemic, I could actually at a certain point it happens so that on the same day I have 2 conferences to attend, and I have to give 2 keynote speeches on the same day, one after another. So I actually thought like the pandemic actually in a way turned to be much more fruitful than ever before for me. And I hope you also will agree to me that we had so many workshops, webinars, conferences, lectures going on during this pandemic, and also research work. I could actually think about my research work in a new way, and I think much more extensively than ever before. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hopefully that's answered your question, Mr. Mubarak. Okay.
Thank you, Professor, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is there any other questions? No.
Yes.
Okay. Oh yeah, Mrs.
Okay.
Miss Irena.
Irena, yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Ismat, for your material. I have a question. How can you engage more students thinking out the box in this pandemic or post-pandemic situation?
Yes, of course. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Irena Biba, for asking me this wonderful question. And you are my co-speaker today, so I'd love to listen to you. So I personally found, since I have a young learner at my home, I have my son, who is a young learner, of course, who is a teenager, who is going to be a teenager. So I personally found, like, when we are thinking of making them, making our young learners thinking out of the box, I mean, going beyond, I think it's not only about thinking about the classroom. It's also about the lifestyle. So if we think about the lifestyle, and of course how if we can make our learners thinking about the recent issues, as I just was talking about, like sometimes we feel that, okay, these are young learners and they would not be able to think about such issues as terrorism or maybe war. So we don't want them to actually think about all these issues, and we think that these are inappropriate issues. But if we can involve the children to think about all these issues from the initial stages, and maybe in their own way, maybe we can make these concepts easier for them. Maybe we can give them materials which are accessible for them to read or maybe to view, like the video clips, or maybe the kind of materials which will be like maybe a cartoon clip which is about climate change, or maybe a cartoon clip which is about terrorism and war. So that in their own way, in their own small way, they can start analyzing and interpret, and of course think about all these issues, which eventually they'll have to think when they are at the matured stages of their lives. So if we can think of incorporating all these issues in our teaching and learning, maybe they can think out of the box. Like, for example, it has like in teaching English, we always think of bringing in like very regular issues in our, like, there are certain set concepts that we always bring in our reading comprehensions, or maybe like giving them a topic. Like, for example, we always ask them to talk about what they're planning for their we always ask the young children, like, what are you going to be in your future? So these are like, obviously we know that these are always there, but we never ask, like, okay, if war starts at your country, in our country, if a war starts in your country in the next month, what would you think that, how would you contribute, for example? I'm just giving a very small idea, maybe. I don't know whether I could make myself understandable, but I thought that, yeah, that would be nice. So that's my way of like thinking. Yeah. Thank you for asking this question, ma'am.
Yeah. I think it is already clear enough. So we can get the point of your answer, Mrs. Zarin. So asking questions look simple, but it can help the students to be more engaged in an online classroom. Because if we ask them to make a complicated project, maybe it will take more time, but simple questions that can they can share their ideas. I think it is already engaging.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think we should move to the next speaker. I believe that the audience here still have a lot of questions, but maybe we can keep it later. If we still have time, we can go back to Mrs. Zarin later to ask her questions. But because we have a limited time, let's move into Dr. Ghada Tosson. Are you here already?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Mrs. Before we go to Miss Irene, we should go to Mrs. Ghada Tosson, Abdul Latief, a Ph.D. in English Literature from Faculty of Art, Beni, Suef, at University of Egypt. Okay. Without further ado, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm so happy to be with you today. I'll speak about helpful ideas for teaching English to young learners. First, I would like to say that it is widely believed that starting the study of English as foreign language before the critical period for 12 or 13 years old will build more proficient speakers of English. Levels of proficiency seems to be dependent on other factors, type of program and curriculum, number of hours spent in English class, and the techniques and activities used. If an early start alone is not the solution, then what can EFL teacher of young learners do to take advantage of the flexibility of young minds and the malleability of young engaged tongues to grow better speakers of English? So let's discuss some helpful ideas to incorporate into the TEYL classroom. To clarify from whom these ideas are targeted, it is important to define young learners. Young learners were 7 to 12 years old.
Mrs. Ghada, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have a slide to share?
Yeah, yeah. This is the
Because we
first
cannot
slide, only the introduction. So I will move another slides later. Be patient.
Okay, because we cannot see it
Okay.
on the screen.
You didn't see any screen?
No. It is only black screen.
Oh.
Maybe you can send it to us and we will share it with
You see the screen
audience.
now?
Oh yeah, we can. Yeah, we already see it.
Okay, maybe because I made it in the full mode.
Like so. Okay.
So I can only move
Yeah,
like
maybe
this.
this way is okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay.
So first we have to define young learners. Young learners were 7 to 12 years old. Very young learners were defined as under 7 years of age. Okay, these ideas focus on both young learners and very young learners, and can be used for various proficiency level. To begin with, the first idea, it is supplemental activities with visual, relia, and movement. Young learners tend to have short attention spans and a lot of physical energy. In addition, children are very much linked to their surroundings and more interested in the physical and the tangible. Their own understanding comes through hands and eyes and ears. The physical world is dominant at all times. One way to capture their attention and keep them engaged in activities is to supplement the activities with lots of brightly colored visuals, toys, puppets, or objects to match the ones used in the stories that you tell or songs that you sing. This can also help make the language input comprehensible and can be used for follow-up activities, such as retelling stories or guessing games. Although it may take a lot of preparation time to make colorful pictures and puppets or to collect toys and objects, it is worth the effort if you can reuse them in future classes. A great way to build your resource is to create a visual and relia bank with other teachers at your school for collecting toys, puppets, pictures, maps, calendars, and saving them for use in each other's classes. In addition, tapping into children's physical energy always recommendable. So any time movement around the classroom or even outside can be used with a song, story, game, or activity. Okay, you can do it anytime. This popular method can be used as a technique which, with storytelling and with songs that teach language related to any kind of movement or physical action. Children have fun with movement, and the more fun for students, the better they will remember the language learning. Second idea involves students in making visuals and relia. One way to make the learning more fun is to involve a student in the creation of the visuals or relia. Having children involved in creating the visuals that are related to the lesson help engage the student in the learning process by introducing them to the context as well as relevant vocab items. In addition, language related to the arts and craft activities can be taught while making or drawing the visuals. Certainly, students are more likely to feel interested and invested in the lesson and will probably take better care of the material. You can have a student draw the different animal characters for a story or even create puppets. If your students are too young to draw, well, make copies of the characters on paper and have a student color the characters and cut them out. After the storytelling, you can use the puppets to check comprehension of the story plot and have a student practice the language by retelling the story using their puppets. If you can't spare the time in class to make the visual you want to use, another idea is to consult the art teacher at your school if you have one, and combine your effort. Then when students come to English class, they will bring their art project to use. In addition, before the lesson, you can warm up by having students explain in English what they made in art class. Some activities could use objects, toys, shoot animals, or dolls. We have one activity that calls show and tell. It is perfect way to get a student interested in the lesson with their own toys. The introduction to the lesson could be short show and tell presentation that gives students a chance to introduce their object in English. After the activity, get right into the lesson using the object the student brought in. Okay, third idea, move from activity to activity. Of course, young learners have short attention spans. For young students from age 5 to 10 especially, it is a good idea to move quickly from activity to activity. Don't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes on any one activity because children tend to become bored easily. As the children get older, their ability to concentrate for longer periods of time increases. So for student age from 5 to 7, you should try to keep activity between 5 and 10 minutes long. Student ages from 8 to 10 can handle activities that are 10 to 15 minutes long. For example, if you are teaching a song or telling a story, don't stay on that song or story the whole class time. Varying the types of activity also help to keep young learners interested. When teacher mix up the pace of the class and types of activities used, students will be more likely to stay focused on the lesson, thereby increasing the amount of language learning in class. The fourth idea, teach in themes. When you plan a variety of activities, it is important to have them connect to each other in order to support the language learning process. moving from one activity to another that are related in content and language help to recycle the language and reinforce the student understanding and use of it. However, moving from activity to activity when the activities are not related to each other can make it easy to lose the focus of the class. If students are present with a large context in which to use English to learn and communicate, then attainment of language objects should come more natural. Thematic units, which are a series of lessons revolving around the same topic or object, can create a broader context and allow students to focus more on content and communication than on language structure. It is a good idea to use thematic unit planning because it builds a larger context within which the student can learn language. When teaching English to young learners this way, you can incorporate many activities, songs, and stories that build on student knowledge and recycle language throughout the unit. This gave students plenty of practice using the language learned and helps them scaffold their learning of new language. Do you hear me?
Yes, of course, ma'am. We can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Go on.
Okay. Common themes for very young learners are animals, friends, and family, or units revolving around a storybook. As the children get older, units could be based on topics such as environment, citizenship, and shopping, or based on a website or book relevant to them. Okay, for the fifth idea, use stories and context familiar to students. When choosing material or themes to use, it is important that you find the ones that are appropriate for your students based on their language proficiency and what is of interest to them. Because young learners, especially very young ones, are just beginning to learn content and stories in their native language in school and are still developing their language proficiency, they may have limited knowledge and experience in the work. This means that the context that you use when teaching English, which may be completely new or and foreign language, should be contexts that are familiar to them. Use of stories and context that they have experience with in their L1 could help these young learners connect a completely new language with the background knowledge they already have. Teacher could take a favorite story in L1 and translate it into English for a student, or even teach the language based on situations that are found in the native country, especially if the material the teacher have depict English-speaking environments that are unfamiliar to students. This is not to suggest that stories and context from the target culture should not be used. Certainly, one goal of foreign language instruction is to expose children to new language and new cultures in order to prepare them to become global citizens in the future. However, teachers should not be afraid to use the familiar context in student L1 in the L2 classroom. In fact, even when presenting material from the target English-speaking cultures, it is always a good idea to relate the language and content to student home culture, to personalize the lesson and allow students an opportunity to link the new content and language to their own lives and experience. Sixth idea is to establish classroom routines in English. Young learners function well within a structured environment and enjoy repetition of certain routines and activities. Having basic routine in the classroom can help to manage young learners. For example, to get a student attention before reading a story or to get them to quiet down before an activity, the teacher can clap short rhythm for a student to repeat. Once the students are settled down, the teacher can start the lesson by singing a short song that students are familiar with, such as the alphabet song or chant they particularly enjoy. The movements can be submitted to teach new words. For example, instead of look to the left, look to the right, the teacher can use point to the left, point to the right. Add classroom language to the routine as well. Build on this language by adding more after a student have mastered the interaction. We can see how classroom routines, which happen every day, may provide opportunities for language level development. Once a student become fluid with certain interaction, you can begin introducing more language into the daily routine. For the seventh idea, use L1 as a resource when necessary. Because many experts of various communicative approaches try to enforce the English-only rule, teachers sometimes feel bad when they use L1. Teachers these days are mostly encouraged to teach English through English, especially at the younger ages. One reason is to give students the maximum exposure to the English language. So why not L1? It is one quick, easy way to make difficult expressions such as once upon a time understandable for a student. After you quickly explain a difficult expression like that in L1, student will recognize the expression in English every time it comes up in a story. Since EFL teachers usually have a limited amount of time with the student in many classroom situations, that time is too precious to waste. It is more efficient to use L1 for difficult expression or word. Just use it. Concentrate on building communication skills. Save your time for the target language that is actually within student reach. For words that a student can figure out, the teacher can rely on visuals, relia, and gestures. Important in the decision to use L1 is to translate new language, is carefully defining the teacher should spend class time on those target language objectives rather than spending time trying to make a difficult word or expression understandable in English. So some students who are very low proficiency can easily become discouraged when all communication in the classroom must be in English. Sometimes this student can express comprehension of English in their native language, and this can be acceptable for lower level students. However, whenever possible, take the answer in L1 and recast them in English. In addition, direction for many activities can be quite complicated when explained in L2. So consider using L1 when it is more important to spend time doing the activity rather than explaining it. In short, use L1 in the classroom as a resource for forwarding the learning process without becoming too reliant on it. Okay, for idea number 8, bring in helpers from the community. If possible, bring in helpers, parents, older students studying English to tell the story or help you with some fun activities. collaborate with others who are studying English, studying to be English teacher, or who speak English well in order to expand the English learning community. Having someone new and interesting do a storytelling can get students more excited and create a break in the regular routine. The best scenario would be to carefully coordinate the guest with your language objectives. Using helpers means taking extra time to communicate your experience with the guest and working this special event into your lesson plan. Besides, storytelling helpers could assist in the class when you want to do group work or cooperative activities. For idea number 9, collaborate with other teachers in your school. It is useful to find out what students are learning in their other classes, in their native language. So collaborate with other teachers in your school to make the learning experience richer for your students. Connect your lessons to topics, activities, and stories your students are learning in their native language by planning related thematic units that parallel to the learnings in other subjects. Since students learn language better when it is connected to their real life. Most children's lives revolve around the home and the school, so try to coordinate with other teachers to find out what is relevant to students, then add English instruction on top of that. If other teachers at your school are willing visiting each other's classroom, can be a wonderful way to get to know what is being learned in each other classes and how. It can help in the creation of more effective lessons for students and can increase their ability to make connections between language and content. For my last idea, communicate with other TEYL professionals. As helpful as it may be to collaborate with the other teacher at school to see what content is most relevant to students, it is also important to keep in contact with other TEYL professionals, both in your local area and internationally. It helps to keep you current with trends in the field. Most importantly, keeping in contact with other TEYL professionals helps keep your classroom fresh with new ideas, and the collaboration can help to construct new ideas and solutions to the common problems that may teachers face. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Ghada. I noticed in your presentations you are mentioning about the use of L1 in the teaching and learning process to young learners. This is always become the students' questions, especially here in Madura, in Pamekasan, where I teach my students. They always say that it is hard for them to use English with young learners because they think they will not understand them. They try not to use English as a media of communications during the teaching and learning process because they're afraid that they will not understand the materials. But I always say use it slowly and do a lot of repetition. So what do you think about this? For those who already 7th or elementary school age, is it, what is it, using full English with the students or mix between English with the L1?
Yeah, I believe in mixing with L1 and L2 because it is a waste of time to try to describe the activities you want to implement in L2. So you can use L1 in describing how to do this activity. And then you can acquire language while doing the activity because it is most important the activity itself, not the instruction of the activity. Because children acquire language through games, playing, and movement. We can give them the instruction using L1 and then enforce them to use L2 during the activities itself.
Yeah, we have to like forcing them to always use L2. And we also need to give them models. We ourselves as a teacher have to use English more so that they can hear and expose to the L2, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and when we are using the daily routines in English, they will use some words in English and they will acquire the language from us.
Yeah, because we are the language models. Oh yeah, I think I should give the chance to the audience to ask questions.
Okay.
Please raise your hands. Maybe you have questions to Mrs. Ghada dealing with her presentations. This is more about how to teach young learners and the characteristic of young learners.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you,
Irena.
Dr. Ghada, for your material.
Thank you.
Have you ever used vocabulary, teaching English with vocabulary?
Is it an application?
Yeah.
Yeah, you mean
like
application.
Like Nepard. It's beautiful and very useful.
Vocabulary. So I think I should check it. Vocabulary and applications. Okay.
Thank you.
So, Mrs. Ghada, you ever use the applications? Vocabulary?
I use one time before an application to teach vocab with my student. I don't remember its name, but maybe it was good with some of my students, but with others it was not good because some of them told me that we can't download up on our mobiles, we have no smartphones, and so on. So some of them use it and acquire many vocab and new words, and the other they fail to use it. This way is so good to use vocab. And also I try with one of my classes a website that also teach vocab. I also can't remember its name, but it was amazing website. When you can answer the vocab correctly, they give you gold and jewels and so on. So you keep collecting all the gold still to reach to fortune or something like that. It was amazing for a student, but also not all of them can use it because of the internet connection, and maybe they have no laptops and no smartphone. But it is a good idea, Ms. Irena, to use apps in teaching vocab. Miss Eva, you are silent.
Muted.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so vocabulary. Okay, I already noted it at my notes and I'll go check it because I believe that vocabulary mastery is like the key to be more fluent. Yeah. Okay, is there any other questions for Dr. Ghada from the audience? No other questions? Okay. We can save the questions later for Dr. Ghada, and then let's move to our last keynote speaker today. She is from Albania. Wait, let me introduce her. Okay, so Mrs. Irena Biba is a master teacher. Oops. She's a master teacher and trainer from Albania, and she's been 25 years in this field of education at the secondary school, high school, and 3 years as principals. Wow, that's cool. I believe that she's not only good in practical in teaching, but also in management. Yeah, school management. That's really awesome. She was studied at University of Tirana. Is it also in Albania? Oh, okay, yeah. Good. And also she attend leadership school. Yeah, that's why she become the principal for 3 years. She works as Albanian language and literature teacher, and she worked also in agency of insurance of quality, wow, of education in Albania. TV teacher and collaborator with Ministry of Education in Albania. She is a Microsoft Educative Innovative Expert, Wakelet Ambassador, I ever use this, Scientific Ambassador in European Schoolnet Academy, at winning coordinator in Europe, Erasmus speaker, etc. So I believe that she will share with us a good material, and then yeah, let's go to Miss Irena Biba. Okay, the floor is for you, Mrs. Irena.
Thank you, Eva, for your introduction. It's a great honor being here today in this significant webinar. As you said, I am an Albanian language and literature teacher, but being a coordinator in Twinning Europe, making me working with students in English. And I want to share with you some experiences with this work, working with project with my students. I want to share my screen now. Okay. This is my school. I work in secondary school Beti Mucho in Tirana, Albania. Is a public school, center community, more than 900 students. 100 students are member in eTwinning, age 12 to 15. Our school is located in the capital city of Albania, in Tirana. The students are polite and smart. Our school has a lot of little genius and amazing teachers. It feels like a big family every time we are at school. We never miss out events and activities. I am a passionate teacher working with projects, always willing to learn. We love doing every kind of activities that are possible to complete, from national events to international events. This year has been a really difficult year from the coronavirus pandemic, as you know. It was very hard for us to go online teaching for some weeks and learning, but we did really well at the end. Okay. As I said, I work in eTwinning. I am coordinator, is a platform where we can communicate, collaborate, and develop projects, share, and in short, feel free and part of the most exciting learning community in Europe. Albania is a small country in southeastern part of Europe. We can be part of this platform only using English. That is so important for us and for my students. We are improving day by day. we are improving our skills in English, because working individually or collaboratively, we have to speak in English. I want to share with you one of my favorite project named Social Media Cultural Degeneration, between our partners from Tunisia, Romania, France, Macedonia, and Turkey. What are the advantages and disadvantages cultural degeneration, how to build up social awarenesses, adapt the technology for education. It's so important for us to use technology, teaching by using online and Web 2.0 tools in an effective way. All this we make in Albanian language and in English also. Most of the project we work collaboratively, and our students are improved a lot their skills in teaching English. In transnational teams using different apps and tools such as Canva, Story Jumper, Animaker, Genially, Toontastic, Padlet, Bitmoy, Google Forms, ThinkLink, Imeze, Chatterpix, GIFs, etc. We celebrated European cybersecurity in October, in Albanian language and in English also, both. We also celebrated World Tolerance Day and World Hello Day in November, Safer Internet Day by writing the rules in a virtual board, designing posters, organizing a poster competition, or creating a common poem in February. We created posters and slogans, a common poem about tolerance, a common video saying hello in mother tongue. It's so important, but it's so important to saying hello in English also, because we cooperate with other partners from all over the world, and we have to speak in English. We have to cooperate in English. Not only the English teachers make this, but only an Albanian language and literature teacher. We created slogans and played Kahoot twice about social media addiction and cyberbullying. We also created a collaborative video GIFs to fulfill the purpose of this project. In December, we created a common cartoon video via Animaker app about social media addiction. In March, we worked on media literacy and disinformation by doing presentations via Genially app, Padlet, or organizing an online event on a twinning platform. That's why our students collaborate and share experience with other students from other countries, speaking, sharing their thoughts. And that was a beautiful and significant thing. We had two final products made via ThinkLink tool and an art gallery via Imeze with the works and the task for the project. What about the dissemination? We made a lot of online meetings, and we had our Facebook page, Instagram account, blog, YouTube channel, website of the schools, and the students share their thoughts in English about this beautiful project. In April, participants and guests evaluated the project activities, and certificates were given to all participants. In this collaboration, they also between Tirana, Tunisia, other countries, students improve their cooperation skills, critical thinking, reflective learning, and creativity. To gain the awarenesses about secure internet, they worked in a lot of activities. Media literacy took part, disinformation, digital footprint, and etc. They For interactive materials, they have used posters, videos, games like Kahoot, quizzes. Kahoot also is a quiz, and other played games. The collaboration was provided during both the learning and the production phase of the project. How? With the help of common products like social media addiction, animal video, project poem, poster ebook, log ebook, cyberbullying slogans via Chatterpix. Communication was provided via online meetings, twin space, and forum discussions. World Tolerance Day. By the help of preparing animated GIFs, they learned to combine their research on a digital tool as a result of analytical thinking and forum discussion also. In April, they evaluated the project processes themselves, so assessment took place. Another beautiful project that I want to share with you was about gender equality. It's always a great topic, talking and working in this beautiful project, Women Empowerment and Global Economy. For centuries, gender inequality has emerged as a serious problem in society. Looking at the root of this problem, we see that women are victims. A number of studies has been carried out both nationally and locally, and gender equality, which is the 5th goal of the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. With the COVID-19, the situation is not good also in Albania. The methods and techniques we use in the second part or phase of our project, mentor teachers will be working, because we are in process, with their own student groups. By applying flipped learning and project and game-based teaching methods, and drama techniques, activities will be carried out to improve students' social, emotional, analytical thinking, and creativity skills. With a project-based teaching method with an interdisciplinary collaboration, it is planned to discuss the issues of gender equality and women in our community and present it to students as a scenario so that they gain skills with a pragmatist approach. With flipped learning method, it is aimed to give priority to putting students in the focus of the subject by taking their cognitive loads and contributing to their critical thinking skills. With game-based teaching method, we are going to contribute to students' critical and problem-solving skills by using games in the educational environment. With a jigsaw technique, all groups will learn the subject and be divided into groups, and then students from different groups will form specialization groups and they will teach to one another. With drama technique, developing students' abilities such as role-playing, self-confidence, self-expression skills, creativity, and empathy is aimed. In order to conduct an interactive study with students, videos and articles about gender equality and the effects of the pandemic on women will be given before the training, and the students will start to design their materials by doing the necessary research on the subject. Subject contents will be discussed under the topic opening in the forum, and collaborative activities will be planned in line with the data and requests obtained from the students. And students will also share and exchange views on collaborative work in the forum. The topics discussed in the forum will be compiled and evaluated by the teachers. Some of the teachers in this project are English teachers. Collaborative products study will be planned in line with students' opinions, and students will choose the materials they want to design in the chat room. They can write in chat room. Students will be assisted by the teachers with the Web 2.0 tools to be used in their studies. However, the students' request to use different Web 2.0 tools will also be taken into account. The steps and studies related to our project will be given in a certain plan in order for students to reach easily on the TwinSpace portal in eTwinning. All the work done will be documented and uploaded to the Padlet by the students. Padlet is another tool. Padlet will also be uploaded to the TwinSpace platform afterwards. A drama about being a woman in a pandemic. There will be due diligence and solution-oriented content about women's homes situations, women's work at home, depressed women, etc. Drama about gender equality. There will be solution-oriented content on topics such as language, fairy tales, sport, academia, and domestic responsibility. It is required to use costumes, students' username, school's name, and eTwinning logo must be used, and dramas must be short and inclusive. My students have made two videos. Letter. A friend of your living in India, for example, has been cyberbullied, and I ask for your help. You are going to write, students are going to write a letter to their friends. What solutions would they offer in their letter? A friend living in Tavulu, for example, mentioned that migration has started in the country due to climate changes and that women are affected by this situation. What kind of letter would students write for this, etc.? Brochure. How can inequalities in health, education, at home, at school, at work, in sports, in academia, in politics, in language, in fairy tales be resolved? In the studies, it is necessary to analyze the fairy tales and make correction. The mistake made in the language should also be studied in the same way. Student username, school's name, and eTwinning logo must be used in this brochure. Gender equality is key to achieving the global goals. Awareness is a video. This activity will be held by teachers together with their students. Participation in awarenesses videos is not mandatory. Details will be discussed with teachers and students, and action will be taken in line with the decision taken this month, next month in February. Who's the game? Content will be created by considering the life stories of 10 successful women selected in mixed teams. It's a collaborative work. It will take place in the game night event. We made this activity, actually. Workshop and game night. This workshop will take place within the framework of the Jigsaw technique, and there will be discussions on how to resolve inequalities in health, education, home, school, work, sports, academia, politics, language, and fairy tales. A game event will be held at the end of the workshop. And common product, a newspaper. Each mentor will communicate with their team and decide on the name of the newspaper and write the name they have chosen in the chat room. The name of the newspaper will be determined through a survey. A newspaper will be published summarizing the activities of December by making us of brochure studies. We have made this, we have public. How to resolve inequalities in health, education, etc. Students' username, school's name, and twinning logo. All partners must complete this activity during this month. We can choose as many activities we want. Students might take into consideration some female figures like Juliet, Lady Macbeth, and Ophelia, etc. We might analyze their role in the plays, in the society of the time, and ask the students to make a comparison with the role of women nowadays, and they can prepare digital presentation. For dissemination of this project, our project will be carried out in dissemination activities on dissemination platforms such as community surveys, newspaper, news, and social media also. This is a poster made by my students, made by Emma. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. Women have been fighting for centuries to be emancipated from all forms of oppression. Gender inequality affects us all, etc. Okay, and the last one of my project is water sanitation, SDG goal 6. My students are still working on this project. The most important and permanent solution always to the water scarcity in the world is the education of people, is the education of youngs. And here we aim to create awarenesses of the importance of water and water conservation for our students. Always speaking in English, writing in English, and improving in English, improving the skills of students in English. Our students will notice the factors that cause water pollution at an early age and discover ways to avoid them. They will learn to use water economically and apply it. They will learn about water recycling through methods such as purification and distillation and integrate them into their daily lives. They will develop alternative methods to reduce water consumption. Thanks to our project, not only to our students, but also students' families and other people will gain awarenesses as they try to disseminate. We want to continue the project by making common decision in a democratic form, democratic way, because the project will be student-centering, but we must include disabled students also. We just want to include in it decision-making processes, and we aim to research both jointly and collaboratively with mixed school teams from different countries. That is so important, speaking English and writing in English and improving our skills in English. While planning the activities, we aim for an interdisciplinary knowledge. There will be a theme each month. For example, draw for water in March, and write for water in April, sing for water in May, etc. Other events will be agreed with partners in the first webinar. First of all, we aim to raise awarenesses of water conservation in our students, then their families and all the society we can reach. We expect our students to understand the importance of water. We aim to make our voices heard by all the people we can reach with blog, school websites, various social media tools, and different news sources. Okay. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Irena. And from your presentations, that I can notice that the teaching of English to young learners there in Albania, you use technology a lot, and you already use a project-based learning with different materials, with what is an update issues, which is gender equity, and also the eco-literacy, I think, yeah, especially about the water research. Okay, here, we in Indonesia, we cannot easily use the technology as those in Europe or in other country, because we always deals with the, the facilities, the internet facilities. Most of the students cannot reach the technology because of there is no internet, there is no good internet connections, and most of the area also having not a good economic what is it, their economic couldn't make them afford to buy gadgets. So the teacher here in Indonesia, especially here in this small island, Madura, we should be more creative in having English for young learners that is opening their what is it, their vision in learning. So not only learning the grammar or the vocabulary, but we can also what is it, teach them or opening their visions of many other issues, the issues that the three keynote speaker here already mentions. Maybe what is very important here in Madura or in Indonesia globally, maybe it deals more with to be mindful in using plastic. I think that's the issue here in Indonesia that must share with the young learners. How to make the young learners become more mindful dealing with their habit in using plastic, any kind of plastic. Okay, so Mrs. Irena, so what do you think about that? What do you think about our situations that we cannot easily use the technology, and so in an online learning, it is quite difficult for us to be more engaged because our students do not use technology. The only social media that can be used widely here is maybe WhatsApp or Facebook, because the students use them. The parents use that. Okay. And it not consume a lot of internet quota, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your question. I think it's the same situation here in Albania. A lot of issues, but we are some teachers that work in a twinning in this platform I have shared with you, and we are pioneers of using and infusion of technology into classroom. During pandemic, we have used a lot of platforms like Edmodo and Google Classroom, but not all the students participated, have gadgets. Same situation, same problems in all over the world here in Albania. But we have to fight for this. Is a great competence is using technology into classroom, make the lessons funny, make lessons interactive, and in remote learning, blended learning is useful. I have used also Nearpart, but some of my students participated in this beautiful platform because they have not connection of internet, they have not all the students gadget for participated. Same problems, I think, in all over the world. And we have worked hard with SDG 17 goals, making projects like water sanitation, like gender-based equality, and working with project-based learning. Learning via project is beautiful, is useful. Students love teaching. Students love sharing their thoughts, and especially in English, it's a good experience. because they have collaborate with other teammates. They have collaborate with other students in other schools in Europe, and it was very great and useful for us. But not all the students can participate. Some of them. You have to unmute, dear Eva.
Sorry, I forgot it. So, so how do you overcome those who cannot be reached by the media during the COVID?
Yeah, I was a TV teacher during pandemic and in national television, and this contingent of students only via television make her lessons.
Yeah, yeah. I
and
think it's
WhatsApp for some of them. We have used WhatsApp.
Yeah. They our students here, our young learners here, share their WhatsApp with their parents. So so it is quite difficult for us to have the, what do you call it? What do you call it? Direct learning, continuous.
Blended learning.
Yeah, yeah. Synchronous learning. So yeah, synchronous learning. So mostly with the young learners here, we use the asynchronous learning. We share the material in our WhatsApp and then wait until they check their WhatsApp and then they submit. So something like that in some area.
Situation.
Yeah.
Same situation. Flip learning is the method. Flip learning.
Yeah.
We give them the material and then they come face to face. We can make exercises and we can promote our higher order thinking skills into classroom if we are face to face always.
Yeah, yeah. So COVID-19 in certain area is like yeah, not a blast, but in other area it become a blast because then people learn technology. They who do not know the technology because of the COVID-19, then what is it? Become familiar with the technology. And as Mrs. Ismat said, that she become more productive because she can be at different places, become international speaker, even at the same day. So where maybe before the COVID-19, we cannot do that because we have to flew or we have to drive quite far away to become speaker in different places. Yeah. Okay. Any questions for our three keynote speaker today, dear audience? I will allow you to directly share your questions. You can raise your hands. Oh yeah, many audience asking the keynote speakers materials. They will very grateful if you can share the material with them in the chat box. Is it possible to share the material with the audience in our chat box? Okay. Yeah, amazing project. Yeah. I think project-based learning will always work with young learners because, yeah, they have a lot of energy and they have a short concentration span. They will not stand if they have to do like what we do today, sitting and listening valuable presentations without moving from our chair. It won't work with young learners. Okay. Dear audience, can you open the camera? Because before we end the sessions, we would like to have photo sessions with you all. Okay. Okay, good. We have Mr. Mubarak. Okay. Okay, can we start in 1, 2, 3? Okay, good. Thank you. No more questions for the 3 keynote speaker? No. Okay, if there is no questions, I would like to give chance to all the keynote speakers to give their final statements dealing with their presentation today. Can we start with Miss Ismat? Can you give your final statements before we ended the sessions? Fi, unmute, Fi. Bu Ismat, tolong di unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us today. And so I entirely enjoyed the other 2 keynote speakers' speech and their wonderful materials as well. And I loved to share mine. I hope you guys enjoyed when I was speaking as well. I really loved the projects that you have, Irena. I really appreciate, and I really could connect because I found my ideas were somewhere or other getting involved with the projects that you are promoting. Maybe we are somehow we could interconnect our ideas. So in my view, I think when we are teaching the young learners, that the whole vibe that we found in this session today, me along with the other keynote speakers, what we wanted to, I think, echo is that we can come up with innovative ideas, and we can come up with newer visions for the future, so that we can make learners much more accessible towards their achievements. And teaching English is not only teaching them how to use the language, and it's much more about it's much more about how we make them enable to be competent in English, alongside how they actually know the world, how they see the world. We can maybe ensure an awareness regarding other issues, which I tried to promote in my presentation, and how we can make the students think about the world around them, and how we can hybridize the teaching and learning of English to the young learners. That was the echo for today. So I found wonderful ideas from my co-speakers, and I really am looking forward to future collaborations with you all. Thank you very much for inviting us in here, and I personally would like to thank Miss Eva for having moderated such a wonderful session. And I would also like to congratulate my co-speakers for having delivered amazing ideas and amazing projects in front of us, so that we could actually have knowledge about what is happening around us and how we are moving ahead with our vision. So looking forward, and thank you so much. That would be all.
You're welcome, Mrs. Ismat, and hopefully we can still have a great jobs in the future, a great networking in the future. Yeah, I mean. And next, Mrs. Irene, do you want to say something?
Yes, it's great pleasure being here today in this significant webinar and hearing other speakers, good materials. And I want also collaborate with you to share ideas and to make beautiful projects. I think Ismat know. And thank you, Eva. Thank you, Eva, for moderating this wonderful session, wonderful seminar or workshop also. And I am very, very happy being here.
Of course.
I'm very happy. I want to thank you.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully, we can contact both of you, Mrs. Ismat, Zarin, and Irene's later in the future. Hopefully, we can share, because I personally teach TEYL for more than 10 years. So I'm really happy if I can share with you the ideas of how to make my students become more engaging and then become more open their mind about what happened around the world, what are the issues there, so they can see the world in a more open-minded and become more, as what Mrs. Zarin said, become having good global competence. So not only good in English, but also having another global competence. Oh, Mr. Mubarak, I think he wants to say something.
On behalf of all, I wish to thank to all the respected panelists for your invaluable insight, extending my sincere thanks to organize for this opportunity, and looking forward to participate in your future webinar series as well as to the workshop. Thanks for the opportunity, and Assalamu alaikum to all.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, we have Mr. Kamarul Arifin. Do you want to share something with us? Seems that you are very faithful since beginning to up to now. No, I think so. Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm Kamarul from Malaysia, so thank you very much for this.
We have.
We are neighboring countries.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So how do you know this webinar?
I joined the WhatsApp group actually. From the first time is being that since last year I've been joining this WhatsApp group, and then they keep sending me all the information. But actually I'm not from English fields, so I'm from the statistic. But I learned a lot from this webinar. All the contents, everything is very good. The sharing session very good, and I get some informative ideas on how to conduct the classes during the pandemic, everything. Yeah. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. So you can also conduct a research dealing with young learners later on.
Yes. I'm doing that actually. So I'm doing a research paper on post-pandemic in terms of the online education.
Yeah. So you can have the ideas.
Yes. A lot of ideas actually.
A lot of ideas, yes, of course, because we sometimes do a research, but we get confused a lot when we deal with statistics.
Okay, in that case, you can contact me and we can collaborate in writing. Right? So I'll be willing to help those in need in terms of the statistical analysis. So
okay, can you leave? Yeah, can you leave your email address?
I will leave my contact
in the chat
section.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Kamarul. Thank you for your participations today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you can also work with Mrs. Irene and Mrs. Zarin. Okay, so collaborative. Whose material today talking about international collaborations, collaborative work?
My material, I think a teacher cannot teach better unless she's still learning. I'm still learning English with my students. We have improved a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank
So
you.
this kind of
Was a
presentations make
pleasure.
us also. Oh yeah, Mrs. Irene and Mrs. Zarin, would you please say something in your language? Selamat sore. This is bahasa Indonesia.
I am a speaker of Bangla. So
Bangla.
yes, I would like to say good afternoon in Bangla. This
Yeah.
is
Okay.
Shubho Oporanno.
Super
Oporanno.
Oporanno. Oke, selamat sore dari Indonesia.
Parano.
Malaysia juga begitu. Selamat sore. Albania? How to
Diton
say
Emir. Goodbye, Diton Emir.
Titan and me?
Emir.
So difficult. Okay.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
In Bangla, when you say goodbye, you can say bidai.
Bilai.
Bidai.
Okay.
Bidai. Bidai.
Bidai.
Yeah.
Bidai. Okay.
Yeah.
In bahasa Indonesia, when you want to say goodbye, you usually say sampai jumpa. Because
Sampai. Okay.
meet again. Sampai jumpa. So hope we meet again. Hope we meet again. So we're not saying goodbye, but we say hope we meet again.
Hope
Sampai jumpa lagi. Selamat sore gitu. Okay.
So glad to meet you here today.
Yeah, it was
I
wonderful.
enjoyed a lot.
Me too. Okay. So this is we should thanks to technology because I can meet people from Malaysia, from Bangladesh, from India, from Albania. So this is our first time having a speaker from Albania. We have some speaker from Bangladesh, from Malaysia, but this is our first time to have a speaker from Albania. Hopefully we can have another work with you from Albania, Bangladesh, and many other countries. And we have Mr. Mubarak also from India. Okay, so there is audience. There is an audience from Nigeria also. Okay, thank you because this is already 3 o'clock. I'm afraid that you still have another schedule today. So I'm so sad to close the very inspiring webinar today. Hopefully, we still have another chance to talk further about teaching English to young learners because yes, young learners is an age where we can teach them many things because they will bring it up until they grown up and become a better persons for a better world in the future. Thank you very much for sharing the material with us. Let's close the sessions today and sampai jumpa lagi. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yeah, Allah Hafiz. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, and hope to see you and hope to get connected.
Amin. You
Stay safe and stay healthy. Goodbye.
Yeah, of course. That is important.
Yeah, Allah Hafiz and bye-bye.
Sampai jumpa. Tadi Fin 1671 @gmail